Get ready to go on a harmonious journey into the world of music therapy with the incredible Drew Davenport. We'll explore the diverse facets of his fulfilling career where music becomes the conduit for healing, growth, and a profound change in the lives of countless individuals. You won't want to miss it. This is Career Chats with Katie and Robin.
Welcome, Drew. We are so excited to meet you and have you on Career Chats today.
Thank you. It's great to be here.
To begin, why don't you tell us what you do and what does a typical day on the job look like?
So I'm a board-certified music therapist, and as many people tell you with many jobs, there's not really such thing as a typical day a lot of times. But my job is kind of split into two categories right now. I contract through a company called Noble, where with them I work under the Medicaid waiver, and I work primarily with individuals with disabilities. And then I also have the other side that I do is I have my own business where I work primarily in assisted living facilities and in retirement communities, performing for groups. But I also with that business work some with recovery and rehabilitation with drug and alcohol abuse, substance abuse, and that kind of thing. So on a typical day, it will consist of a number of sessions, either individual sessions with people with disabilities or in these group sessions at different facilities where I work.
What do you do when you go in? I'm guessing there's music involved, but what's the therapy component? Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Absolutely, yeah. So that's the question. A lot of people always say, oh, music therapy, I've heard about that. What is that? You know, and a lot of times people say, oh, music therapy, so you must play a lot of music to help people relax, or you must play Kumbaya around a fire a lot, right? That kind of thing. So while all those things might be involved in music therapy really encompasses a lot of different things. The easiest way, I think, probably to describe music therapy is it's using music to achieve or to reach non-musical goals. Just as all of us have different ways that we would like to become better people for whatever reason, you know, there are all kinds of things that we have in our own lists of what we would like to achieve and how to make ourselves better. My job is to use music to help you become better in whatever way you need to. So when I work with people under the Medicaid waiver, they have a whole team of people who have devised a plan for them. And this team has sat down and has worked with the individual to try to figure out what it is about therapy or what it is about their lives that they would like to improve. So there are a number of things it could be, whether it's communication, whether it's social skills or movement, mobility. Sometimes in memory care places, it's certain things with memory and facilitating memory and remembering different things. So my job is to look at those goals and to look at, okay, this individual is looking to reach certain goals. How can I use music to get closer to those goals? And there are a number of different ways you can do that, through songwriting, or through song playing instruments, or a lot of that. One of my favorite things to do is with songwriting and doing recordings. But it's any way that you use music to reach those non-musical goals.
That's awesome.
That was a good explanation.
How did you find yourself doing this?
So yeah, that's another interesting question too. I'm one of those rare people who I went into college with a major, and that is the major that I am still do. When I was in high school, no idea what I wanted to do. I actually got into the music game a little late. So much of who I was what kind of music I listened to. And I just loved music and going to concerts and that kind of thing. So I started to, when I was in middle school, 6th or 7th grade, I started picking up the guitar, you know, with friends and just kind of teaching myself some things and just using my ear to learn things. And then that graduated into wanting to be in bands and writing our own music and that kind of thing. And I just kind of self-taught, learned guitar and picked it up more and more as I was writing music. And then, you know, started taking some lessons and that kind of thing, but really just fell in love with music and creating music. And that just became how I identified myself. That was my therapy at the time, you know, as you're growing up and trying to get through some of those difficult things that when you're trying to figure out what's my place in life, what am I doing here? Music was the one thing that helped me with all the challenges that I had throughout my life. As I looked at what do I want to do with my life? How do I want to help other people? Well, what's the thing that's helped me the most? You know, I realized it was music. So at some point I saw an article that said something about music therapy, and that jumped out at me, just the term itself. I didn't know what it was even. And I remember very little about the article. I think it was actually something similar to what I do now. I think it was about someone in assisted living facilities or something, and doing some kind of memory recall or something. But I remember seeing that and just reading this thing about how we use music to help people reach goals, and how use music to really just to make people's lives better. better. And just right away, it just clicked. I was like, wow, I'm pretty sure that's what I'm supposed to do.
I love that.
Wow. So can you tell us a little bit about the schooling requirements or certifications or trainings that you do need to go through to become a music therapist?
Yeah, there are a couple different ways you can do it. I did the more traditional route, typically a 4-year program. There are a lot of different schools that offer a specific music therapy program. It's kind of like a mixture. At my school, I took a lot of the psychology courses and then a lot of the music education courses too. And you'll do practicums where once a week you'll go to different places and do sessions like I did ones at middle schools working in special education departments, or we did some at nursing homes nearby and assisted living facilities, some rehabilitation places. And then when you finish your coursework, typically done in a 4-year degree, then you go on to do an internship. And there's then a 6-month full-time or year-long part-time internship that's required. There's an exam after the internship, and then you receive your certification. Yeah.
And then is this one of those jobs that you have continuing ed every year as well, or not?
Yeah, and it used to be you had a couple different options where you could either take the exam every 5 years or you could do a certain amount of continuing ed hours, but they've gotten rid of the exam option. So now, you just have to fulfill a certain amount of hours. So that's attending conferences, or there are a number of different things that you can do to, fulfill those requirements. So
right.
There's also an equivalency program where they found that there are a lot of times people who go into music education or music performance or something like that, or even psychology, and then find out about music therapy later, or kind of, realize, hey, that's something that I might really like to do. So there are equivalency programs that you can do to where if you have already done a number of, music education or psychology or something like that, then you can speak with the American Music Therapy Association and figure out an equivalency program, or you can also get your degree that way. I don't know much about that just because it's not how I did it, but I do know some people who have done that. That's pretty common too.
Yeah.
Tell us what your favorite and least favorite part of the job is.
Oh man, there's so many favorite things. And there are some least favorite things. Honestly, I've always enjoyed playing music and speaking with all kinds of different people on all different kinds of levels and different age groups. And I also just really enjoy playing music for people so much. The joy that you see with someone whenever they're creating something new, or whenever they're able to interact with you on that level, whenever you have some kind of a breakthrough, or whenever somebody does something for the first time they didn't realize they were able to do, or when they have kind of an epiphany moment, those are those big moments that you see that, obviously those are a favorite part of the job, but just that every day seeing the fact that you're making a positive difference in people's lives. And sometimes it's just such a little thing, but just in, the daily enhancing quality of life for someone. Now, the dirty part, right? The least favorite parts. Yeah, there, as with any job, there are challenges that come with any job. One thing with music therapy is that there's definitely, when you're working with any kind of population where there's therapy involved, it requires a lot of patience. Over the years, there have been a lot of clients that you really have to have the patience it takes to make a difference, because a lot of times you want to roll in there and you want to see things start happening right away, and you want to see that difference being made, and you want to see consistent progress, and you don't want to see backslides and that kind of thing. In reality, that's just not how the therapy world works. One of the other big challenges that I will say is just with legislation and that kind of thing. It's been very difficult to be working with under the Medicaid waiver, with the wages being stagnant now for over 20 years. So luckily we have movement on that right now. I will say, as much as I hate to talk about money and something like this, it is part of the job. And under the Medicaid waiver in Indiana, it has been over 20 years since they've increased the rates of that. So we are very, very hopeful that is going to change any day now. There has been some legislation that has hopefully been passed. We're just kind of waiting for approval.
I think that's really important to talk about, though, because it's realistic. If someone's going into this field, what are the realities that they're going to face? So I'm glad you brought it up.
Yeah.
So you already mentioned patience, but what kind of personalities would thrive in the day-to-day work environment that you do?
That's such a great question, because I would say something completely different than another very successful music therapist might say. And that's one of the things that I think is really, really cool about music therapy specifically, is that there are so many different ways of approaching it, and so many different ways that you can have successful and positive outcomes, no matter how you approach it. I've met a lot of music therapists who are very extroverted and very outgoing and kind of loud and boisterous and have that personality. And I've seen them do really, really good things. But I'll tell you, that's kind of the minority. Most music therapists that I've met are kind of introverts. It depends on who you are and how you work. Whatever personality you have, you can use that to your advantage in working with clients, and the way that clients interact with you. There's a selflessness, I think, involved. I mean, you have to have the well-being of other people, in mind, and to have the passion to have the patience and to want to see progress. You have to want to do what you're doing and to enjoy doing what you're doing. I think it's very, very obvious if you're not enjoying, especially with something like therapy. If you're wanting to, bring that smile up and be the light in someone's life, then you have to be the light. You can't be a dark person and expecting someone to get light from you.
I love that. So what would you tell someone who's thinking about entering the field?
Some good advice that someone gave me when someone in my high school was actually a high school counselor. When I told him that I was thinking about, is that required thing you go and meet with your counselor to figure out where you're going to go to college for. So I mentioned it to him, and he actually had a music background too. He said, can you imagine your life where every day you're playing music? And I said, well, yeah, of course I can. I said, I wouldn't be thinking of being a musician. And he said, okay, but that's not the question. That's important. That's fine. There, I can imagine every day. Here's the real question. Can you imagine your life every day without music? To think of that to where, yes, I love music and I can imagine doing it every day for the rest of my life. And it's like, that's great. A lot of people could. Can you imagine not doing music every day for the rest of your life and being able to be happy? And I was like, I can't. If I wasn't able to use music in the way that I have and to be able to use it as a way to make a living, as a way of something that I can do every day. When he said that, I was like, yeah, that is something that I think I need. That's what I want, in order to be happy.
Yeah. Do you think there's going to be more or less opportunities for people to do this work in the future?
That's a very good question. My first inclination is to be like, oh, it's gonna explode. It's gaining traction and people have heard about it more and it's kind of a buzzword and people are excited about it. And all of the research that we have has really shown how big of a difference it can make and all of those things. But at the same time, money is always an issue, and especially, how are different music therapy programs going to be funded? Is the government going to be willing to spend on these programs that offer music therapy? So that's always, I think, going to be a challenge with this field. I don't think it's going anywhere. If we look at the research and if we look at people's response to it and the popularity of it and that kind of thing, all of those things are all positive and benefiting us. So based on that, I'd like to hope that we can see it move forward and be optimistic about, where it's going.
Mm-hmm.
You talked about how this is basically what you set out to do as soon as you learned about it. Is this the plan forever, or do you see yourself doing something else in the future? Is there a next step, or are you happy to do this until you retire?
I can't imagine we're not doing music every day. I'm open to, seeing where the road might take me in the future with different populations and with, sharing music in different ways. But as of right now, I feel really good about what I'm doing, and I don't have any plans to change anytime soon. I plan on being a music therapist in one form or another, for the rest of my career. If I were to go back to school, it would definitely be, I've always been really interested in psychology. But even if I did do that and explore psychology further, I would still always be using music actively in whatever I'm doing.
Yeah. That's great. So let's talk about benefits for a little bit. I know you said sometimes things can be tricky with pay, but beyond paying, what type of benefits does this type of job offer you?
So I have 3 kids at home and love to be home when they get home from school, or at least close to that as I can, and love to go to their extracurricular activities and all of that kind of thing. And with my schedule, I have been able to arrange things to where I can see people to where it doesn't interfere with their schedule as much. My wife has more of a kind of traditional 9 to 5. So absolutely able to be more flexible with, okay, I need to be off for this couple hours stretch to go do such and such, or to take him to the doctor, or, whatever it is. You are able to be more flexible with what you're doing. With my own business, I choose clients. Really how I get nursing home clients, with my business, I just call around and say, hey, you guys, I'm a board certified music therapist. Is that something you guys want? I'll come by and play for you. And if you like it, then you can pay me to keep coming back.
I love it. Well, is there anything else you want to tell our listeners about becoming a music therapist?
At the end of the day, if I could do it again, I would. And I really do love being a music therapist. There are days that are hard, and, there are some things that have been challenging, especially as you've watched other careers and kind of growing up and being, at a certain age and watching other people kind of progress with things. But at the end of the day, the smiles on the faces, the people that I know, being a part of the families of so many of the people that I work with, and just feeling like a part of the family. I had a 4-year-old speak his first word in front of his mom, and in one of our sessions once, that's not the kind of thing that happens every day. That's the kind of thing you don't forget, can really be a very big part of somebody's life. And really in a world that's really so full of a lot of negativity a lot of times, and where a lot of jobs, even, people who have jobs that they like and enjoy don't always get to feel proud of what they're doing. I feel really lucky to feel like I'm making a positive difference in the world. I don't think a lot of people are able to say that.
I love that. What you do is really meaningful. Drew, thank you so much for being here today. This was so great, and we really appreciate it.
It's my pleasure. Yeah, thank you guys.
Thank you.
Career Chats is hosted by Katie Huddleston and Robin Coney. Show notes and guest info can be found on our website, careerchats.show. If you enjoyed this episode, we'd love you to subscribe and share this podcast with your friends. Until next time, stay curious.